Hey guys, today I want to talk to you about our experience during Web Summit last week, where we presented our new startup and we had a very fun and at the same time very rewarding experience during Web Summit. And I decided that I need to tell the story to everybody. So we're going to talk about a few things today, but I'm going to start with a few general remarks. First of all, Web Summit is a huge conference. So Web Summit is essentially, I think, currently the biggest tech conference in the world. This year, actually, I think they had something like, 75,000, 80,000 people attending the conference. And then there's also all the staff around the conference. There's a lot of volunteers. And I mean, there's a huge number of people that go there. It's a huge conference. It's held in Lisbon, in Portugal. That's, I think, every year. I think the past 2 years, because of COVID, it was, I think, online only. So technically, this year was the first time they had a live conference since 2019. And the funny thing is that I was actually there in 2019 for the last Web Summit before COVID. This year, we decided to sign up for their startup program. So the startup program, it gives a few different options. Essentially, you can apply to different tracks, you can apply to different events, and you also get to have a booth during one of the days. There's a limited number of booths during the conference, and that's why actually the startups rotate during the few different days. We sign up for the startup program, we got accepted. There's a small review process that happens before that. We started applying to the different things. You can actually watch my How to Build a Startup series, which shows a little bit more detailed step-by-step process of how we sign up, how we applied, and everything else. But yeah, essentially, there's different startups that go to the conference. Everybody has their own agenda. Some startups are there for getting funding. Some startups are there for getting customers. Some startups are there just for the networking. And we're actually there not to get funding. We're more or less trying to present our product to the world and try to get our first leads and maybe even our first customers. We applied to the pitch competition, but we actually didn't get accepted to the pitch competition. From 2,500 something startups, only 100 get to participate in the pitch competition. So it is a big filter, but despite that, we got invited to another part of the conference, which is for CEOs and founders only. And the invite says at the top 200 startups, CEOs and founders get invited. So we feel like even if we weren't in the top 100, we're probably in the top 200, which was, I think, very nice for us. In this first event, it was actually the day when the conference was being opened, so the first day of the conference. This first event actually, I think, was probably the strongest in terms of opportunities for networking and everything else. It was basically CEOs and founders of startups that were participating in Web Summit. It was a very strong networking event. There were different activities during the event that we could do, but yeah, essentially, I think in terms of networking, it was probably the strongest part of the conference. I think it's actually a good thing that we didn't get to participate in the pitching competition, because if we did participate in the pitching competition, it would have taken up a lot of our time during the conference and also a lot of our efforts and focus. The conference is a huge event, just like I said. It requires a lot of energy and concentration if you want to be successful during the conference. So I think it was actually good that we didn't get to participate in this startup competition, because otherwise we wouldn't have had time and energy for everything else that we were able to do. And the other reason why I think it was a good thing that we didn't get to participate, it was that the focus of the conference was clearly medical technologies, sustainability, startups, so everything that is related to the current issues of the world. Our product is also very much up to date with what's going on in the world, but it's not an impact startup. We're not an impact startup. We don't do anything big in that respect. So that's why I think we could have ended up not being very successful in the pitching competition, and it could have led to us being unmotivated, thinking that we're not doing a great job and everything else. But being able to focus on what we were there for, we were able to finish our job very successfully, I think. Now, the next topic I want to talk about is the stuff that we were trying to push during the conference. Of course, our main focus was our startup MobSur, the user feedback platform for mobile apps. And I think that was probably one of the most successful products and offerings that we were able to pitch during the conference. We were also trying to push our other offerings. So we also have mobile app development services and mobile app growth consultancy services. And I'm going to share a little bit of insights about all of them. But essentially, I think for MobSur, we were able to do the most that we could do and take out the most out of the conference that we could take out. Our strategy was to split, so everybody was going through different parts of the conference. So we split it in terms of who's taking hole 1 and 2, who's taking hole 3 and 4, who's taking hole 5. So we were able to split between ourselves who is going to go through which part of the startups. And this allowed us to actually go through all of the startups that were meaningful to us during the 3 days. So we technically went through almost 2,500 startups in 3 days, which is still a big task. And during our presentation day, when we had our booth, one of us was standing at the booth during the whole day, and then the other 2 of us were going through the startups. So it was a big task. It was very tiring, I think. But everybody on the team, kudos to Carlo and to Lacho, because everybody did a great job. And that's why I think we're able to be so successful during the time we were there. This means that we were also able to practice pitching the product hundreds of times, which was actually, I think, a very good exercise. I think between ourselves, probably we pitched the startup to, 200, 300 startups every day, which means that we did about 100 pitches each. So I think that was a great exercise, actually, and I'm very happy that we were able to do it and we were able to get that experience. And from those pitches, we were able to gather 200, 250 very good leads for a product, which is, I think, very good. Now, the services side of things, it's quite difficult to sell services of our type, software development services, at a tech conference. I've tried doing this before, and it's very difficult to sell services at a conference. Basically, everybody that's at a conference, they're either looking for customers or they're looking for investors and partners. And they're not really keen on someone else pitching them services or trying to sell them something. It's different when it's a startup to startup situation. When a startup is trying to sell the products to another startup, it's a whole different conversation. But let's say a startup is there at their booth and they're trying to show their thing, and then you go to their booth and you try to sell them services. It's not very easy to do so. This is probably the activity that we had the least success with, but that was of course also expected, so nothing unexpected there. The consultancy services seem to be a little bit easier to sell during a conference like this because, like I said, everybody is there looking for something. It's sometimes easy to understand what they're looking for, and you can ask them what is the next phase for you, what are you trying to do next, and then when they tell you, you can tell them, okay, we can help you with that, we can help you get to the next phase, we can help you get to the next milestone. So the consultancy is, I think, a little bit easier to pitch and to sell during a conference like this. And we actually have some good leads for the consultancy services too. The only tricky part is to actually getting people to talk about their issues, because when they're trying to sell you their thing or they're just pitching their thing, sometimes they're not really keen on actually talking about what problems they're having. So yeah, still a little bit tricky to get people talking about what they want to solve. That has been one of the more successful parts of our pitches during the conference. Now, comparing the booth to the other stuff that we did, I think the booth was actually, in terms of quality leads, it was probably the least successful of the stuff that we did, but still it was, I guess, okay. It was nice to tell people that we have a booth, to invite people to the booth. It was still a good thing that we had it. It just wasn't like, in terms of generating leads, it wasn't like the biggest thing for us. Also, comparing ourselves to the other people that were presenting, talk to people, asking them how things were for them, how it's going for them. Actually, it turns out that we were probably one of the more successful startups at the conference. Like I said, we were able to get somewhere between 200 and 250 leads for 3 days, and that's good leads. I think most other startups weren't that successful in terms of lead generation. I'm not sure how it went for the people that were looking for investments. I think some of them were actually successful, but I don't have enough information to give a good answer here. The key takeaways for us now, MobSur is clearly a product for startups. So we were able to understand better which are the startups that can actually use the product and which are the startups that are not a great fit for the product. So the startups that are good fit for the product are the ones that are in a phase where they're still trying to figure things out. They don't necessarily have product market fit yet, so that's a good place for them to start asking questions and start understanding better who the users are. The other type of startup that is a good fit for a product is startups that are at a certain place where they now need to get to the next phase. They've hit a plateau, so now they need to understand their customers better and start asking them questions. The startups that are not our customers that are ones that are growing really quickly because they're not at a phase where they are ready to start gathering that feedback and doing something valuable with it. Most of the feedback that we were able to gather was positive, which is great. With the services, it's hard to sell them, so almost zero success trying to sell services. We weren't actually pushing for this, so it's fine. The consultancy side of things was actually successful, pretty successful. We weren't pushing for it too much, but still we got good feedback. Now, the one thing that we need to double down on more and actually focus on a lot is the fact that we have a great track record. And we need to make that clear all the time. The fact that we're able to, 3x the subscriber count of a client, and the fact that we're able to 5x their revenue for 3 months, stuff like that, that really works. Now, the next topic, moving out of the heavy stuff, is the fun side of the conference. So Web Summit is, like I said, a huge conference. It also has serious parts and then also a lot of fun parts to it. Every evening there was a night summit, which was more opportunities for networking in a more casual type of environment, over drinks, over something to eat, stuff like that. This was a lot of fun. There were great talks from very high level people, CEO, founder of Revolut, people from Apple, from every big tech company. There was someone there sharing things and experiences. That was, I think, a lot of fun. Also, there was one concert, David Guetta and someone else. They had a big concert, and the tickets to that concert were actually part of your ticket to Web Summit, which was also great. The last night summit was again sort of a concert by itself, so this was really great. So it's not just serious stuff, it's also fun stuff with more opportunities for networking. The CEO founder event had its own set of fun features, fun experiences. There was sailing, there was wine tasting, there was cocktail lessons, and then there was a cocktail for everybody, cocktail hour for everybody at the end. So it was all great fun. Very exhausting, but great fun. The last part I want to share a little bit more is Lisbon. So Lisbon has been something that I always wanted to experience. I've been there before, never actually got to see the city too much. It was kind of the same this time as well. I did get to see a little bit more from the city this time, but not really too much. It is an interesting place. I had actually, to be honest, a little bit higher expectations. It has that kind of oriental, maybe a little bit Moroccan, African kind of vibe to it. That's at least my experience from the city. Eating out is probably a little bit too expensive for my taste, but other than that, it was great. It's a great place, so I advise everybody to go and visit it. As always, guys, I hope this was helpful. Thank you for paying attention, and talk to you in the next one. Bye.